How many know the theme song? All right, here we go. Let's sing it. Look at what's happened to me. Come on. Wouldn't that be nice if we were singing while he came in? Wow, that ended abruptly. Hopefully we have an ETA on Mr. Katt. Yeah, he lost his suit. Couldn't get here right now. Was anybody here a fan of the sequel show? The Greatest American Hero 2? There was a sequel show, yeah. No? It was like the Karate Kid 2, I think. Hilary Duff as the, or Hilary Swank as the Karate Kid. Sorry. No. No, I won't. Well, this is odd. Interesting. Hope you all brought something to eat because we're going to be here for a while. Oh, well, I'm Tony Toscano. Hi, everybody. Somebody wanted to know who I was. And I interview people for a living. It's not a good living, but it is something. Love you too. Dude. So I've been having a lot of trouble sleeping lately. Last night, the night before I dreamed I was a wigwam, the other night I dreamed I was a TV. Doctor says I'm too tense. Sorry. Two Irish guys walk out of a bar. It could happen. Don't write, please don't write. Oh man. Do you want to say hi to Zachary Quinto right there? Hi Zach, everybody applaud. I'm sorry lady, you look like Zachary Quinto. There we go. They're going to let us know where he's at. He's probably saving somebody. So where are you from? How many people from out of state? How many people are from, let's say, Nevada? Oh, wow, some Nevadans. Colorado. One. Wyoming? Idaho? Wow, what's left? California. Ah, nice. Well, just trying to pass the time. They're recording this for posterity. Thank you, I need it. Yes, I still do movie reviews on ABC in the mornings on Good Morning Utah. And I do them for a syndicated show that's around the country called The Daily Flash. with Mitch English, who used to be a weatherman here in Salt Lake City. And then I have a new show called Screen Shatter. I retired talking pictures. And then Screen Shatter is a half-hour interview program where we have a celebrity in for a full half hour. And so we've got some pretty big people coming on. Vincent D'Onofrio will be on soon. We've got, are you fans of Leverage? Anybody here? Beth Rees-Graff will be on with me for, I think, 2 weeks from now. And then we've got, as I said, Hillary Swank of all people coming on. So, got a few people. I just did Rob Paulson. So yeah, it's syndicated all over the country, and you can catch it on my website, screenchatter.com. Thanks for coming, everybody. I didn't know this would be an oral test. Thought it was going to be a written. Are you enjoying FanX? You know that I think it's great. You know, after a year, it feels like they're just trying to get started again. So this feels like the first one. You know, there's a lot of things going on, but I think everybody here is the staff here has been really great. They're doing such a great job. And security has been good too. Were the lines unreasonably long to get tickets? I heard yesterday it was an hour or two to get in. And how about those food trucks? All right, well, anybody else want to come up here and I'll interview you? Keep practicing. Oh my, I've been doing this for 53 years now as a film critic and a celebrity interviewer. I started in my junior high school year. I was writing reviews, and then I got picked up by the local paper, and then picked up by a television station, and the rest is radio first and then television. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm going to keep doing it till I get it right. What's the worst film you've seen this year? Was it Black Widow? Did everybody? We've been having a lot of conversations about that. Yeah. In the audience, that's a great outfit, by the way. You should stand up and take a bow for that. That is really... as a hero. Does anybody here know William Katt? We can interview you. Robin Williams. Robin Williams is my favorite person. I interviewed, I've known Robin, I knew Robin for about 30 years. My daughter knew him there's my daughter Katie. And we would go visit up in Northern California with his winery that he owned with his stepbrother. And he was a great guy. Robin was a great guy. And I love interviewing, interviewed Zachary, and Zachary's been fun. You know, Zachary, one of his first roles was out here in Utah, Touched by an Angel. He did a Touched by an Angel with Jack Black years and years ago. Yeah, so has everybody had a photo op with somebody? Did everybody meet who they need to meet? I think they're yelling pornographic names at me. I don't know. And there's some great costumes here. Yours is great, but there's been some really, really great. I went to a convention once, a couple of years back, and everybody was dressed as Harley Quinn. It was just everybody. Even the guys. It was a little confusing. That's all. True. That's a good question. But, you know, I start with something simple, like where did you get those shoes? And we move on from there. I hope he remembers that he had an interview today. Somebody call him, just to see where he is. I wonder if we'll get extended time because of this. I need to do a 5-minute thing. USC. I'm sorry. I didn't go to college, I went to USC. Yeah, they have a great film program there, and I went with a couple of very interesting people in my younger years. It was a very interesting group of actors and producers and all that. Charlie Matthau Walter Matthau's son went there, and we had a few other people. Phil Giuliano, I don't know if you know directors, but Phil Giuliano went there at the same time I did. And Cameron Keys was there, right? Yeah. So yeah, I went to USC. It's Southern California. If you're going to be in this business, you gotta hang there, because that's where everything happens. Who's here wants to be an actor or produce a film or write a film? Anybody? Good. Voice work. My aunt was June Foray, the voice of Rocky the Flying Squirrel, and Natasha and Nell. She was a great woman, and she died at, I think she was 97 when she passed away 3 years ago. So all the voice actors out here are friends of mine, Jess and Rob Paulson and those guys. She left a great legacy. I mean, it was almost a 70-year career in doing that. By the way, she dated Humphrey Bogart. When she first got to LA, my aunt dated Humphrey Bogart. Go figure. Your mom dated Jimi Hendrix? Oh, my mom dated. There's a great meme that has God standing there with Keith Richards and Adam and Eve. And Adam is asking, who's that guy? And God says, he was here when I got here. I should do a stand-up act so you guys can leave. I don't know what to tell you. We just need to go, maybe we got to send somebody down to his autograph table and say, hey, buddy. What's that? Oh, somebody is going up. Thank you. See him. You see him? Ladies and gentlemen, William Katt.
I should actually be doing this. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for coming.
You missed the sing-along.
Oh, I did?
Yeah, it was quite well. They sounded great.
Was it Believe It or Not?
Yes.
Let me guess.
I love the Monkees cover of it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you got me here.
Yeah, now we got to ask you some questions. And if you want to ask a question to William Katt, just come up. We have a microphone there for you. And anything about the greatest American hero, or Pippin, or any of the things that you've done.
Oh, okay.
Now, you and I had an interview about 3 weeks ago.
We did?
On Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Remember?
There you
It
go.
was a long time ago. And I discovered a lot about you. I discovered my first question is going to be, Just the suit. You didn't like the suit.
Oh, okay, well, we're going to start there with greatest American. Would you stand up? Would you show everybody? Turn around. There you go. Now tell me, do you enjoy wearing that thing around? It's something that I grew to enjoy. When I first wore it, we had it was a different kind of a relationship. You know, it was a love-hate relationship. But because it was cold in the winter and hot in the summer, and but I must admit, I grew to enjoy it, and over the years, it's become a very, very well-loved and dear friend of mine. And it's given me back more than I ever could have given it, because of all of you, all of the fans out there. Yay!
Do you still fit in it? Have you tried it on?
No, I don't. I didn't save it.
Really?
I haven't tried that on. Oh my God!
What a piece of
I can't even imagine. I didn't look good in it then. I can't even imagine what it would look like now. Anyway, does anyone have any questions I can answer? I'm pretty good at a Q&A.
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for coming. I wanted to ask you what it was like growing up in a showbiz family, and if it's true that Perry Mason really did have a relationship with his secretary.
Oh, okay. Well, let me start there. Raymond Burr, my mom, for those of you who don't know, was a celebrity and a wonderful actress in and of herself, way before me. And she was Della Street in the Perry Masons, that I think started in '56 or '57. And no, they never had any kind of a thing going on. You know, like in a lot of film and television, it's suggested. It's always make them think you can, but don't give it to them. That's kind of the secret of Hollywood. They kept it very clean and above board. My mom and Raymond were very, very dear friends, going way back to RKO years before Raymond got involved with the Perry Mason series in '57. They were good friends at RKO. In fact, they met each other and were friends long before she met my father, Bill Williams, who was also an actor and did very, very well for himself in the 40s, 50s, and up even until the early 60s. And then he kind of slipped out of the business and pursued some other activities that he enjoyed in building and development, etc. But no, Raymond and my mom never did that. Just stayed very good friends. I grew up knowing Raymond as calling him Uncle Raymond, because I was always on set from the time I was 5 years old. I was on set. It was fun for me to get out of school. It was about that time I met, actually I got to be friends with Jeff Bridges and his brother Bo, because their father Lloyd was doing Sea Hunt at the time. And so I got to be friends with them for a while. And we all met in school, because on the lot there was always a studio school for kids who were young actors. And when I would visit my mom and my dad, I would have to go to school for a certain portion of the day in order to be visiting with them. What else? What was the other part of that question? The showbiz family. I didn't know the difference. You know, ask anyone who's a son or a child of a celebrity family. You don't know the difference because there's nothing to compare it with. So it was just the way it was, you know. So anyway, I hope that answers it.
Okay, I know this is like the greatest American hero, but I was just curious how it felt when you didn't get the role as Luke Skywalker in Star Wars.
Well, at the time, you know, Brian De Palma and George Lucas were casting together. I forget the casting director, but they were casting together. Both of them were doing seminal films for them. Brian McCalman's seminal film was Carrie. He was casting for, and George Lucas was casting for his Star Wars, yes. I had sponge brain for a minute. And so they were seeing every up-and-coming young actor, both female and male, in Hollywood, and I think they cast in New York as well. So I got to the auditions where typically in an audition process you see the casting agents, and the next time in you might go to, if you make the cut, you go and you meet the producer and the director, and then the next time if you make that cut, then you have a screen test, and they'll pair you with different actors, and you go on screen. They like to see what the chemistry is. And I was lucky enough in that audition to work with Kurt Russell, who was auditioning for Han Solo. And he's always blamed me for not getting that part. Said your hair was too long. But Kurt's done pretty good, so we're not going to moan for him or cry for him. He's done pretty well. I would have loved to have been Luke Skywalker, but at the time, we didn't know those films. We didn't know what they were going to be. They were just small studio projects that we had no idea that they were going to be the types of films that they became. But addressing that, I got to play Tommy Ross, and I had a pretty good career as a result of that, you know? So I was pretty happy in the long run.
Well, Carrie is still one of the most iconic horror films ever done.
You know? And it's really not that scary. If you look at it now compared with the types of films that they do nowadays, it wasn't that scary.
Did you maintain friendships with Sissy and John Travolta?
I haven't seen John in an awful long time, and the same for Sissy, but I'm sure if I ran into her or John, it would be very cordial. I've stayed friendly with pretty much the rest of the cast. I see on quite often.
Next question.
Yes.
I love the music from Pippin, and I just saw the video recently of you doing it. I was wondering what your favorite Pippin song was.
Well, certainly the most iconic is Corner of the Sky. I love singing that, all the music. You know, the story there, for me, the genesis of that story, I had auditioned for Stu Ostro and Bob Fosse many times over the course of 2 or 3 years to get that role. And I never got it, and the reason I got it was because I had finished the first season of Greatest American Hero, so I had a little bit of cachet to get the role that we did then for the recorded version of it. That was the genesis of that. But I loved all the music from Pippin is just so marvelous.
And Pippin, the television version that you did was, I think, the first time
It was.
cameras were ever recorded on stage.
Bob Fosse, actually, we rehearsed that in New York. And then we went up to Toronto to film, just outside of Toronto. And Bob Fosse flew ahead to teach the guys that would film hockey in the hockey league, the NHL, and he taught them how to shoot a play with 9 cameras. And we shot over 5 days with a live audience, a 3,000 seat audience, for 5 days. And then the last day, no audience, and then he brought the cameras up on stage. That's how that was done.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
Yes, my question, my daughter is behind me here, and we came together as well. And one day we were watching Greatest American Hero, and she goes, "Well, Dad, where was it filmed?" And I go, "Well, because I hung around the sound stages of Universal here. Well, let's wait to the end and let us say." And there was no say, so I said, "Well, let's look it up on the internet," and it said that you filmed in a warehouse.
Yeah, we filmed in a warehouse. Cannell bought a warehouse and he converted it. And that was in the San Fernando Valley at the time, the first season. And then we moved to Culver City for the second and third seasons. There was a warehouse there, but we only shot in a warehouse maybe 1 day a week. And then we were on a studio lot. The first incarnation of that, the first season, the first 2 weeks, we were on a big sound stage and it was just me. And they put two, like a contraption here on piano wires that ran up to the top. And they had like a railroad track that ran along across the top. And they would make me jump and they'd pull me up into the air and fly me across the stage. Everything was blue at the time, chroma blue. And that's what we did for the first season. That was 2 weeks of me every day doing that. And then we shot the pilot. And by the second season, we had, it was green screen. It was like the same year that Superman came out. And computers were brand new and they were just doing computer CGI. And so thereafter, after that first initial blue screen thing that we did on wires, from then after it was on a green screen. And I sat on a green platform and the camera would move in and around me and I didn't have to move other than, you know, that's just crazy up there.
Flying badly.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So I remember being delighted when you showed up on the NBC series Heroes. So I was kind of curious if you could tell us what that process was like, what that experience was like, and were there any connections back to Greatest American Hero that they were bringing in for that?
I had worked, and forgive me, I don't remember the name of the director. Brian, I can't remember his name, but he and I had worked together on Problem Child 3, a television movie. I tried to follow John Ritter in that role, which is impossible to do because he was so brilliant. But I did my best in Problem Child 3. And that's where I met the director, and when he was one of the showrunners on Heroes. And we kind of got along, and he brought me in, and I worked for one day on that show. Ali Larner froze me, killed me, and I got on. They had, when they were doing Heroes, they had a wall of shame for all the actors that had come in for one day and gotten killed off. So that was my claim to fame with Heroes. I got up there. Oddly enough, about 4 years ago, I got on Supergirl, and it was the same thing. The director had grown up with me watching Greatest American Hero when he was a kid, so he wanted me to come up, and it was their first big crossover show that they did with Supergirl and The Arrow and all those great shows. They were all together on the same set. And it was almost as big as FanX. There was just trailers for miles and people for miles, and it was marvelous. But they killed me. I don't know.
If you'll forgive a follow-up question on that, this being Heroes and it follows the nerd girl, nobody's ever really dead.
Oh yeah.
And so I thought, you can't do that to William Katt. He's going to come back in another episode with like superpowers, right?
Right.
So if you were one of the heroes that had superpowers, what power would you have?
Oh, flying. I'd love to fly. Yeah, I'd love to fly.
Not on Frontier, though.
Yeah, not on Frontier.
Don't do it. Please.
Hi, thanks William for coming. We're so excited to have you here in Salt Lake. My question is, what was the audition process for the Greatest American Hero? Can you kind of walk us through that and how you got your first start and everything?
I was doing a play with the wonderful Diana Wiest, that everybody knows from Edward Scissorhands and so many wonderful, iconic films she's done. I was lucky enough to be cast by a wonderful casting director in New York, Ronnie Timmerman, who is still iconic in that industry, has gone on to produce many wonderful things. I was cast. I went to do auditions in New York for Michel Tremblay play, Bonjour la Bonjour. We were in the last season of the FanX Rep in New York. And I got a script, The Greatest American Hero, sent from my agent, Michael Black at ICM at the time. And I thought it was a wonderful script, very, very funny, but I wasn't interested in doing television at the time because I'm really a gypsy, a theater gypsy. I love the theater. That's, you know, no one knows, but I've done a lot of theater over the last 40 years or so. And I was happy to be in New York. Very content doing the play with Diana, and a lot of the company from the Guthrie had come up to join us. I got the script for Hero. It was very funny. I said, well, I'm very apprehensive about doing television. It's a superhero. Now, although it's a coveted thing right now to be a part of the Marvel Universe, you know, you got Robert Downey and Ed Norton and all these wonderful actors that have those iconic roles that we know of and love so much now. At the time, it was considered death for an actor to do something like that. So I wasn't anxious to do it. But Steve flew to New York, took me to dinner, and he was so gracious and such a kind human being, and one of the biggest in the industry at the time. He convinced me to do the show. My agent said, oh, it's going to run, we'll do a pilot and maybe 2 or 3 episodes and it'll be off the air, you go back to New York. So no, I didn't audition for it. Steve came to meet me. The day we closed in New York, I flew the next day to Los Angeles. My hair at the time, I had dyed it brown for the play because I was playing a French Canadian. So I dyed it back to my normal color, that. And we did the show. The funny thing was about the whole process is that he never talked about the costume. I would say, well, what's the costume look like, Steve? And he would go, oh, don't worry about that. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. So when you see the pilot and you see me in the mirror, the first time I dress up, and I look in the mirror and I do this, I go, hi, sailor. which I could never get away with today, right? But it was all in good fun. Well, that was me doing improv, and they kept it. The show would probably be canceled now. But it was all in good fun. And, you know. But anyway, that's the process. I didn't have to audition. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, you have great hair. I'm jealous of your hair.
I still have a little bit.
No, you've got enough. I got enough forehead for 4 heads.
I was wondering, what's your favorite episode of The Greatest American Hero, and have you ever been hurt on set?
I was never hurt on the set of Greatest American Hero, but I've been hurt on the set. Thinking that I was a stuntman, doing a backflip off of a moving Jeep, you know. And I was in South Africa working for a friend of mine, Wayne Crawford, and it was his project, his film. And I caused the set to shut down for a week. Cost him a lot of money. And that was the last time that I ever tried to do a major stunt by myself. I did House, the stair fall in House, I did. I've done a lot of stunts over the time, but that was the last time I ever did a major stunt like that, because I cost a friend of mine a lot of money. Which he never let me forget, by the way.
Those are friends.
On Hero, I never got hurt. We had a wonderful stunt coordinator, Dennis Madelone, Dennis Danger, as he's well known. He went on to do work in A-Team, Deep Space Nine, Cold Case. He's run lots of shows. He never let me get hurt. Although I got to hang out I did some wonderful stuff. I've hung on to the side of a helicopter, the strut, and flown around. That was a lot of fun. I've done some really fun stuff, but I never got hurt on that show. That answer your question? Okay.
Thank you.
My favorite episode, there you go. Beast in Black was my favorite episode. Ralph goes into the 4th dimension. And it was very spooky and scary. It was kind of like the Outer Limits, Twilight Zone. And the network got a lot of hate mail from moms and dads who said it scared the shit out of their kids. And we never got to do an episode like that again. Only chasing, people in rubber suits. Nice. That's all we got to do. Yeah.
Probably my favorite part of the show is just the relationship between Ralph and Bill Maxwell. Can you talk a little bit about working with Robert Culp, how it went when you first met him, and you guys get along, and just any stories there?
That's kind of a famous story there, Robert and I, Mr. Culp. when we initially first met and were working together, we didn't get along. There was a little bit of animosity there. He always thought it should have been Robert Culp and William Katt instead of William Katt and Robert Culp. And you know, and rightly so. Mr. Culp had a lot of wonderful shows, I Spy, and Bob Carrollton at Alice, and he was a marvelous writer. In fact, let me digress for 1 second. Bob thought of himself as a writer, a director, and then an actor. That's how he always thought of himself. But when we did that show, moving on, when we did that show, he always thought it should be Robert Culp and William Katt. And I informed him one day, it isn't Greatest American Hero and Friends, it's Greatest American Hero. So anyway, that touched it off. We arrived at a detente a little bit, several weeks into it. I knocked on his trailer, and we had a real good talk, and we became very, very good professional friends. You know, we didn't hang out afterwards, but we were good professional friends. And long after the show ended, then we indeed did strike up a friendship later on. Yes, anyone else?
Well, I have one, Connie Selica.
Connie Selica, what do you want to know?
What was that like working with her?
Connie Selica has a filthy mouth. She does. She has a filthy mouth. And it was always so wonderful to go onto the set. You know, our typical day would start at about 6 o'clock in the morning, where we would drive to. And we'd block out a scene. You know, typically you go and block out a scene so they can set cameras and lights. And then the actors go to makeup and wardrobe. And that's what we did. And every day, she would start the day, she would always have a fresh, nasty joke to tell. That's what I remember best about Connie. You know, she would tell these blue jokes, and it was wonderful. Wonderful guy. Yes?
I got one more and I'll sit down. One of the great premises behind the Greatest American Hero is you had a somewhat left-leaning school teacher and a very right-leaning FBI, very straight FBI agent. And yet, in the show, the characters had to learn to work together for some higher purpose, the mission that the aliens needed to pursue. In our day-to-day, we've got quite a bit of division. People aren't talking to each other anymore. What lessons would you wish the 21st century to know from the way those two characters interacted that would improve on it?
Well, I apply this to my daily, you know, when I go out and speak. I don't do social media, but I do interviews and whatnot. I don't talk about politics, and I don't talk about religion. So I think we would abide by that. Whatever you believe in, it's cool.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could talk a little bit about Big Wednesday, and then maybe also touch on why the late 70s and early 80s seem to be having sort of a pop culture moment right now.
The 70s and 80s, a pop culture moment. I don't know, it was a very creative time in the 70s and 80s. You had all those wonderful directors, you know, Scorsese and De Palma and Spielberg and George Lucas, and I mean the list goes on and on and on. Wonderful, creative people that were. It was just a wonderful creative time, and I think that nowadays people might be paying homage to that with a lot of the new work that's being done. What was the other part of the question? Big Wednesday.
Oh, Big Wednesday, yeah.
Big Wednesday was a large part of my youth. I grew up surfing, and you know, I was very, very lucky to meet John Milius and know Gary Busey and Jan Michael Vincent, and we all sat on a couch together, and we shot the shit for a couple hours and got that film. I came out of you know, I had done Carrie, and then I did a film with Susan Day called First Love at Paramount, and then Big Wednesday was the next film that I did. And, you know, at the time, Big Wednesday was not received very well. But in the subsequent 20 years, 25 years after that film, it became a huge cult classic. And indeed made its money back 20 times what it cost. John tells the story, John Milius tells the story at the time, he and George Lucas, who was involved in it? I think Zemeckis and a few other people, they all swapped points in each other's films. And they were all pissed off because John's film, Big Wednesday, tanked at the time. And of course, John made a ton of money off of Star Wars and some of the other films that were done at the time. But it all evened out at the end of the day. That's it. I love doing Big Wednesday. It was part of my youth. That was my youth growing up, you know. Yes?
I'm just curious, what was your experience like on Her House? And did you hope that the franchise would have been more what it became? And would you hope that they would do a reboot?
Doing House, I don't know if any of you have seen House. It's amazing that it's had the legs that it's had, and still as well loved as it was when it first came out. Nobody thought that it was going to do much of anything. At the time, it was just a very, very kind of weird script that had some certain peculiar eccentricities. And but the hero of that movie was really Steve Miner, the director. It was his sensibilities. He was left-leaning, had a real quirky sense of humor, and I just picked up on that. I just played Steve Miner. You know, that's how that came. It was a marvelous time in my life. You wouldn't believe the beautiful set that they created. It was a stage probably twice as big as this room, twice as high, and they made a full Vietnam set on them. You would walk into that set and think you were in the jungle somewhere in Africa. And it was really bitching. You know, I even put on a bug spray because I was worried I was going to get kidding, I didn't.
By the way, bitchin' is surfer talk. He's doing legitimate surfer talk.
Yeah.
You weren't in the second one?
No, not second half. I made a small appearance in one of them after that as a favor to Sean Cunningham, who's the producer. And I don't know why it wasn't remade. I don't know why. I thought it certainly could have been remade with a new cast, and I could have been one of the monsters in the closet or something, you know.
Another question. You happen to have an appearance on House MD. Does that have any connection with you doing it?
No. That was I just auditioned for that, and I got the role. It was lucky, and I really enjoyed working with him. He was a marvelous actor.
I just wanted to ask, crossovers are all the rage right now, you know, like you were talking about with Hero and Supergirl. When you were making Greatest American Hero, is there anybody that you wish you could have done a crossover with from the time Wonder Woman and Hulk?
I don't know. I don't think they were thinking along those lines then. I mean, the crossover rage has only been in the last few years. Unless anyone can remind me if there was something else. Oh, they did? Huh. Yeah. Huh. I don't know. I mean, we were only on the air for like 3.5 years, so I don't know. That would have been a good idea. Who would I have liked to work with?
Bill Bixby?
Oh, I like Bill Bixby. I would have worked with him. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So it's kind of a follow-up question from when we talked earlier. So with the whole 3 seasons of The Greatest American Hero, I kept seeing there was scuttlebutt about them maybe doing a movie, like within the last decade. There was this buzz going out there that they're thinking about doing it.
Has there been any recent talk about it?
I read a marvelous script by a good friend of mine who's now passed on, but his name is Paul Hernandez, wonderful writer. And he wrote a beautiful script, marvelous script that he gave to Disney. Now it's been about 10 years ago. And apparently Disney and Stephen Cannell couldn't agree on it. And so it never got made. The script went into turnaround. They developed another script, and that script later got into the hands of 20th Century Fox. And they did eventually end up doing a pilot for The Greatest American Hero, taking that and making it a girl. And in fact, my dear friend, a good friend, George Wendt, was in that pilot. He was going to be a regular in that show. And for some reason, they didn't pick it up. I don't know. I wasn't going to be in the first one, but George told me that I was going to be in the subsequent episodes had it gone to air. Now, I don't know what happened to it because I think they took an hour format and they made it a half-hour show. And I think they took some of the humanity out of the show. And I think that was a mistake, but that's what happens when you get too many, the old saying, too many cooks spoil the broth. You know, that was that. Too many studio heads spoiling the broth, you know. Stephen had passed away by that time, but his daughter, Tanya, who was a wonderful writer, producer herself, she was originally put in charge of it, and then at Fox, they kind of brushed her aside, and she lost control of the project, and it tanked. So that's the story of that. So it was made and didn't go very well. Who knows? They might do it again. I think it has legs. We might see it again in the future with a new cast.
Well, it's a beloved show, and I think they should do it.
They should put me in it.
You should direct it. You should direct it.
Yes, sir.
Working with Michael Paré. Obviously, he's gone on to do Hayden and etc. Obviously, you guys had such a chemistry as Mr. H, head of the Wayward students. Could you talk about what it was like to work with him?
Michael Paré gone on to do wonderful things as an actor in his own right. We didn't stay friends, but I saw him in 2008. We did a big, there was a big hoopla at San Diego Comic-Con. I was launching a comic book stories of Greatest American Hero. And Michael came down there along with Connie Selica, and we had Stephen Cannell up on him. He was still alive at the time. We had him on a big screen saying hello to the audience. And that's the last time I saw Michael. So I have really fallen out of touch with him. I don't know where he is, although I know he's working. He was a good guy, good actor. Yeah.
Isn't Michael the one that coined the phrase Mr. H?
Oh yeah, that story. I'll tell that story. You know, back in the day, the afternoon that President Reagan, the attempted assassination took place, and it was committed by John Hinckley. The studio executives immediately wanted to change the name, and Mr. Hinckley became Mr. Henley for one episode, I believe. And I think it was during that episode that Michael Paré was the one who raised his hand at the back of the class one day when we were shooting and said, "Hey, Mr. H!" And the producers loved it, so Mr. Hinckley became Mr. H from then on out. And that's the story of that.
I want to thank you for being here. Oh, we have one question. Because we're at the end.
Hey, look, I was going to come up here. I remember my question. Might be coming. So, when the DVDs came out, had the first one you signed, and they changed the music, replacing it actually, a lot of it, with covers. I mean, there are already covers anyway, but it was covered.
Yeah.
But yeah, did that piss you off as much as?
Well, one of the great things about the show at the time was they were using current pop songs. Was in the score. Well, they didn't have the light music licensing to use in the DVDs. That's why they lost all those great songs by use it again. So they had to replace the music.
Did they change it back in the later sets?
No. Anyway, thank you all for being here. Love what God